Everybody, and thank you for being here for January's County Council meeting. If you'll all rise and join Councilman Sanders for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Maple.
Would you join me in prayer, please? Dear Lord, I thank you so much for today. Thank you for reassembling the team. And I just thank you for the knowledge and the expertise, the depth and the breadth of everybody's wisdom up here. Allow us to serve the county well and do your needs for our community. Allow us to make wise decisions, listen to the requests, and make great decisions. We just thank you for the opportunity to live in this wonderful county and do your bidding. In your holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Our first order of business will be the reorganization of the county council, the election of a president and vice president. And the floor is now open for nominations for president.
Mr. President, I would like to make a nomination for president for this council. I would like to nominate Councilman Dale Maple for that position.
Is that a second also? Is that a second and close? Is that what I'm hearing?
Second.
Second and close. Well, the motion's been properly made and seconded. All those in favor for Councilman Maple to be president of this council, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
And
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. President. We'll continue on to get the vice president. Yes. The floor is now open for nominations for vice president. County
Mr.
Council.
President, I nominate Brian Alexander to be our vice president this year.
Do I hear-
Second.
Motion's been seconded, properly made and seconded, and
Then I move that the nomination close for
and
vice
the
president.
floor has been closed. Motion's been properly made and seconded. All those in favor of Councilman Alexander, vice president, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen. And we'll do a little seat shuffle.
Mr. President, one other point of order here. I want to thank you personally for the effort and the diligence that you've shown over the last 2 years, and especially during the budget time. You, in my opinion, you went to extraordinary lengths to dig into a new arena, especially in the wage studies that we did. And I just want to say thank you. You've done a really terrific job as our leader for the past 2 years, and we appreciate you. So thank you for your service.
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you, Frank. It's a great honor, and just doing what we're here to do. And thank you very much.
And I second his motion.
Thank you.
Grab it. I think, can't take that? Okay, Darryl, congratulations. Thank you. Thanks, John. Brian, congratulations. Thank you. Hey, lady. Nice job, Martha.
Nice job. We're going to talk about you at the end of the meeting.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Daryl and I talked together. He was really.
Okay, thank you, council members. I will, I suppose, open the regular meeting and ask that we would go through the minutes from our previous meeting.
Mr. President, I move we accept the minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Faulkner and Councilwoman Lake. Any comments? If not, hearing none, I move that we have a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, our next order of business will be additional appropriations. Madam Auditor, would you do us the honor of reading?
Ordinance number 2025-HCCO-02, additional appropriations. Whereas it has been determined that it's now necessary to appropriate more money than was appropriated in the 2025 annual budget. Now therefore be it ordained by the County Council of Howard County, Indiana, that for the expenses of the taxing unit, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated out of the funds named and for the purposes specified, subject to the laws governing the same. County General, Coroner, Chief Deputy, 3,303. Prosecutor, Deputy Prosecutor, all courts, 56,425. Probation, Probation Officer, reduction, 565. Probation Officer, 284. Probation Officer, 1,274. Probation Officer, reduction, 5,000. PSC Coordinator, reduction 11,226. Assistant Probation Officer, 6,000, reduction 6,171. Probation Officer, 5,858. Probation Officer, reduction 1,880. Total County General Fund, 42,302. Lit Economic Development Fund Sidewalk Project, 392,500. Total Economic Development Fund, 392,500. Lit Special Purpose Fund, Jail Correction Officer, 373,000. Total Lit Special Purpose Fund, 373,000. Community Corrections 2023 Fund, Probation Officer reduction, 285. Probation Officer reduction, 1,275. Probation Officer, $79. Work Release Facility Manager reduction, $325. Full-time Detention Officer, $13,186. Administrative Assistant Work Release reduction, $1,181. Probation Officer reduction, $17. Field Officer reduction, $4,000. Office Supplies reduction, $1,000. Office Supplies Work Release reduction, $1,000. Drug Screen Supplies reduction, $2,000. Drug Screen Supplies Work Release reduction, $2,000. Institutional Supplies reduction, $5,000. Food reduction, $900. Travel and Training reduction, $500. Utilities, $12,332. Maintenance and Contract Services reduction, $4,728. Total Community Corrections Fund, $1,386. Emergency Planning Right to Know, overtime, $60. Local Public Health Services Fund, $1,851. Local Road and Street Fund, $500,000. Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, Engineers Aid, $1,440. Building and Structure Repair, $106,263.24. Total Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, $107,703.24. Stormwater Management Operation Fund, Contract Services, $28,855.68. Surveyors Coroner Perpetuation Fund, Maintenance and Service Contracts, $2,476.52. CASA Fund, Case Manager, $4,164. Supplemental Adult Probation Fund, Administrative Assistant, reduction, $10,135. Administrative Assistant, reduction, $10,135. Juvenile Probation Secretary, reduction, $11,031. Total Supplemental Adult Probation Fund, reduction, $31,301. County User Fee Alcohol and Drug Fund, Assistant Chief Probation Officer, reduction, $6,678. County User Fee Mental Health Fund, Other Supplies, $2,000. Drug Screens, $5,000. Total County User Fee Mental Health Fund, $7,000. County User Fee Veterans Court Fund, Other supplies, $5,000. County user fee, project income fund. Probation officer reduction, $5,842. Probation officer reduction, $79. Work release facility manager, $325. Probation officer reduction, $733. Full-time detention officer, $24,000. Part-time detention officer, $4,050. Detention officer supervisor, $17,818. Administrative assistant reduction, $886. Overtime, $25,000. Probation officer, $17. Field officer, $4,000. On-call field officer, $15,600. Pretrial coordinator, $48,750. FICA, $10,000. Perf reduction, $40,000. Insurance, $35,296. Gas, oil, and lubricants, $2,000. Uniforms reduction, $2,000. Uniforms work release reduction, $7,500. Institutional supplies, $11,000. Food, $1,000. Contract services reduction, $5,000. Participant meals, $10,000. Maintenance service contracts reduction, $11,500. Utilities work release reduction, $5,000. Drug screens, $10,000. Office equipment reduction, $10,000. Equipment, $5,000. Total county user fee project income, $135,316. Probation VOCA grant fund, victim assistance, reduction, $1. Pretrial services grant fund, probation officer reduction, $63,445. FICA reduction, $5,017. PERF reduction, $9,639. Insurance reduction, $30,710. Total pretrial services grant fund reduction, $108,811. Mental health PSC Superior Court 2 fund, incentives, $2,000. Travel and training, $5,000. Drug screens, $12,000. Graduation supplies, $1,000. Total mental health fund, $20,000. Veterans PSC grant Superior Court 2 fund. Probation officer, $57,465. FICA, $4,356. PERF, $8,370. Insurance, $12,274. Other supplies, $4,000. Educational materials, $1,000. Incentives, $2,500. Graduation supplies, $2,500. Drug screen supplies, $1,000. Therapy dog supplies, $3,000. Travel and training, $5,000. Drug screens, $10,000. Total veterans grant fund, $111,465. Total additional appropriations for all funds, $1,586,288.44.
Nicely done. I thought Mackenzie had a bad last time we met. All right, so that has been read. Hopefully everybody's still awake. I will take Mr. Greg Lake to go through his additionals.
Good afternoon. So January meeting is basically our contract cleanups. So which one would you like to hear first? Stormwater or perpetuation, which is a stormwater?
Stormwater.
So stormwater is the salt barn. What's left in our contract for that salt barn. So that we just needed to get that reappropriated to finish that out this year. Is there salt in the barn yet?
Yes. We're still waiting
Nice.
for power and water. We're good.
So the building's been up for a little while, and they've been working on the inside of it, and it sounds like we're real close. So another excellent project getting accomplished. So that's what this additional appropriation is for, is to finish out that contract.
Just for curiosity's sake, do you have any other bills coming due for this from your department, or do you know?
No, so back when we started this discussion a long time ago, I said I would give $1 million towards the salt building. And this amount of money that's left on my side of the fence will bring me up to that $1 million. Everything beyond that, I believe she's taken care of.
Okay, that's what I thought, just checking.
So that's Any questions on the stormwater? Okay, and then the other contract cleanup is section corner perpetuation. The $2,000 or, got the wrong one. 2,476.52. That's just to finish out last year's section corner perpetuation, and we start with a clean contract this year. So, any questions on section corner perpetuation?
Okay,
All right,
thank you, Greg.
thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Superior Court 2's requests and Christine Euler.
Good afternoon. I'm not Christine Euler, obviously, so appreciate you noticing that.
I'm Christine Euler.
This is Christine Euler. She has been hired as our new Veterans Court,
Mental health court.
Mental Health Court Coordinator. And if you remember correctly, the budgets for those are grant, and typically they can't be done by budget session. So I think we have some mental health user fee budgets to go over, Veterans Court user fee, Veterans Court grant, mental health court grant. The first one on your list today, I'm going to do the first one, and then she will go through the second one. So the first one on your list today is our mental health court user fees, 2524. We're requesting the appropriation of $2,000 in additional other supplies and $5,000 in drug testing supplies. No, that's services, drug testing services. Sorry about that. 2,000 other supplies and 5,000 in our drug testing services charged. All right, and we'll move on to the next one unless there's any questions. Do you want to wait till the end of her presentation to ask questions? Fine, all right, we'll just go through each one of them.
Okay, so the next one we have for the Veterans Court user fee is 2525, and I'm requesting $5,000 in other supplies. And moving on to the mental health court grant under 9523, requesting $2,000 for incentives, $5,000 for travel and training, $12,000 for drug testing, $1,000 for graduation supplies, for a total of $20,000. And then moving on to the Veterans Court grant under 9526, for the coordinator salary, it's $57,465. FICA's 4365, PERF 8370, insurance 12274 for a total of 82,465 under that. Participant needs is 4,000, educational supplies 1,000, incentives 2,500, drug screen supplies 1,000, graduation supplies 2,500, drug screens, that's a fund 10,000, travel and training 5,000, and therapy dog services and supplies 3,000 for a grand total of 11,465. Any questions?
Mr. President, if I may,
Absolutely.
Ms. Euler, I'd just like to welcome you
Thank you.
and thank you for the excellent presentation. And we'll just wish you the very best.
Thank you. I brought numbers if anybody was interested in what our graduation rate is, or
Sure, be great to know.
so over the duration of Veterans Court, we have a graduation right now of 70%. With mental health court, it's a little lower. It's at 58%, but I do project that to grow in the future. Last year, we graduated 7 in mental health court. We only terminated 2 people. So Veterans Court, we graduated 12 people last year, and we terminated 4. Currently, I have 11 participants in vet court, 2 pending start date, 13 participants in mental health court, and 1 pending start date. We cap out at 25 per program, and that's my goal over probably the next year and a half, is hopefully have that full and maybe have a waiting list.
Could I ask a question comparing the two courts? I've been to some graduations for the Veterans Court that was in Hawaii. Frankly, I'm not sure whether somebody would, I think they should be happy, but I don't know that they would be happy to say, hey, I'm a graduate of the Howard County Mental Health Court. because that poses a question in my mind. Well, how do you get into that particular curriculum, and is there a stigma to it? So is the, if you will, the graduation ceremony different or maybe less public than than what you would have for the Veterans Court? The Veterans Court has been a very nice and congratulations to these people that have successfully gone through all the steps, progressed through the Veterans Court. I'm pretty ignorant about the steps that go through the mental health court, but I recognize that's a big problem, and to be able to say, hey, I'm a graduate of that would be something worthy of saying, hey, congratulations. But I'm just curious if you see or are aware of maybe a stigma attached to that or not.
Yes, there is. It is embarrassing for some of them, and actually the shirts that we had made, some of them don't want to wear it just because it does say mental health court. So I've actually changed the logo on that and abbreviated it so they can proudly wear that and make it's a little more cooler, so they feel more prideful to wear it. But they are with other people that support them, and our case managers and our treatment providers, to where it makes it normal for them. And we do have graduations for them. We have it in court. They can bring their family, they can bring their friends, and we want to do bigger graduations, but the problem is in the previous years, we've only had $10,000 to work with.
Yeah.
So with that many people, $10,000, it just doesn't go long for drug screens and other services that they might need. So we're trying to change that stigma in the future. So, and we just actually had a blended Christmas party where we brought our vets and our mental health people together, and it was awesome. Like, they were mingling together and they participated, and so we're trying.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
What's the time frame? How long does it typically take a person to go through one of those, through the entire program?
So there's different tracks. So Veterans Court, we're a 5-phase program because we have a stabilization phase, which is the vets phase. Mental Health Court, it's a 4-phase track program. Each program is 13 months to 36 months. They can be in there to grow. I mean, each phase, they can go at their own pace, so it's not like set time to where you're phased out, unless they get to that 3-year mark, which, to my knowledge, we've never done. So, yeah, and in each phase, they're required to get a GED, get a job, build their credit score, meet with a financial advisor, meet with a coach. There's a number of services that we make them do. I describe it as probation on steroids.
So the user, excuse me, the user fees, how are they collected, or why are they collected?
So we have the $100 initial phase, and then it's $50 thereafter per month. I believe that is state mandated, and we try not to spend any of it. We try to leave it in there, but we do appropriate it just in case we run out of money and we need it.
Okay.
But we
Thank
just
you.
leave it sit.
All right. Any other questions? If not,
Thank you.
thank you,
you.
Christine, very much
you.
for all you're doing.
Thank you.
With that, next is, now we have Dustin along with Community Corrections.
I apologize for all that you had to read, Jessica. We have a lot on the agenda today. A lot of this is cleanup because we have grant accounts and we have the county budget, and then each budget doesn't line up, and then we have to go back and make all these adjustments to both budgets. So I tried to explain that in an advisory board meeting the other day, like, we need to adjust the OC budget this much and then the county this much so that we can make them match. So when we're reporting out our expenditures, it makes sense, right? So I can go through these line by line, and we can work our way through there. On our county general, we'll just start with the county general. You can see we have some reductions here. Those are generally because we had movement in employees. So we had different employees filling those different positions that make a different amount. Because we have a probation officer salary scale, which if you're a new probation officer, you make this amount of money, but if you have 5 years experience, you make this much money. Well, if they move into a different position, like Christine did, she was a probation officer for quite some time, and then she moved into a coordinator position. which is still a probation officer position, but it's under a different fund, a different umbrella. We hired a person to fill her position that was at a lesser rate. So we had to reduce some of these appropriations. I do want to make note, and that's evident in the 11,261 in the reduction in that problem-solving court coordinator. That is not Christine's line item, but that is a different line item for problem-solving court coordinator that we filled. So we did move that person in there, and that was a different salary rate, so we have to reduce that one. If you look at 12,004, I am requesting that be removed from the request, the $5,858. That is not needed. That was an error on my part and a years of service bump that shouldn't have happened in this yet. It's this next year, not this year. So that's why that is being adjusted.
Which one's that?
12,004 is a reduction of $5,858. Or no, it's an addition of. I don't need that additional.
Sorry, I put it on. It's over here.
On the first page, it should be on the 0235. Okay.
Okay.
All of the adjustments in our county general are in our payroll account for a total reduction of $17,426. That's the total reduction that we're requesting. But now it's not that, it's a little bit more than that because that $5,000 came off. So we're $22,000 reduction, I believe. Okay, moving into 2542, this is our user fees for community corrections. Is that what's next on my list? I'm sorry, let me look. Nope, I'm at 1142. 1142 is our grant fund from the Department of Corrections. We receive a little bit over $1.3 million from them yearly through the granting process. When there were salary increases made in some of these positions, they were applied under our grant fund, and we didn't receive additional funding to support those. So we have to reduce them here and increase them in our project income. So that we can still account for the raise, if that makes sense. We only have this much in our grant. When we add the increases, it goes beyond the amount that we can spend. So I'm trying to reduce the, you can see the reductions are primarily going to be salary based. Our office supplies and our supplies, this was all strictly to get us in line with what we submitted to the state budget. So we're making these corrections to match our state budget. Looks like institutional supplies, we're reducing $5,000. It's $500 in travel and training. There's just some oddities in here that you'll see. One of them was a rearrange of utilities, one of the biggest ones, the $12,332. We increased the utilities in the grant, and then we reduced it out of our project income, but it was again in an effort to make sure that they match. For the total in, oh, I don't have my total on this page, I'm sorry. All right. So as you can see in our grant fund, we have some reductions. Again, it's just to get us in line with the amount of money that we have to spend. I appreciate the break there. I was boring
I
you
did
to
that for
death.
you, yeah.
I'm boring you to death and trying to explain this, and it's hard to explain. So as we get into our over from our grant fund, we move into our project income fund. This one has a couple of different things on it other than just the standard corrections to make our budgets match. Those two things are the on-call field officer line item, additional of $15,600. That allows us to have a 24-hour on-call field officer every week of the year, so that we don't have we have somebody dedicated to answering issues when somebody cuts their bracelet, or if somebody has a tamper, or there's an out of place, so that person then can respond to that issue with it being a paid position. We have had people responding throughout the night, but it wasn't paid. There was a text messaging group, and then we're having comp time and overtime, and several people engaged in it. This cleaned up our process for the overtime on that. So now we have dedicated people every week that do the after hours work. So we have somebody on call or in the field from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. most every day of the week, except for on the weekends. So our on-call position covers from 10 p to 8 a, and then weekend days. That's their coverage. And if they have something come up, an alert come up, their job is to respond to that alert, call the participant, make sure that the person is where they're supposed to be, and then just check those things out, right? That's their role. The other addition is our pretrial coordinator, this 12208 position. There's an additional here. Our Community Corrections Advisory Board elected to transfer our pretrial services program to community corrections. So I went to a PAC meeting and asked for additional funding for this position, and I was asked to see if we could make that happen. I was very skeptical. I didn't think that we'd be able to move a program from one umbrella, because it was a probation-based umbrella, to a community corrections-based umbrella. Given information, we can. And the board approved it, so that's what this additional appropriation here is for. That's really the major things that fall outside of the normal corrections between our grant and our user fees on those accounts. As we get into 2100, again, this comes down to the county's budget is a little bit different than what we had submitted, so we had to make sure that we adjusted some salaries on this fund to make sure that everything matched. There it is. These were accounted for in our county general budget, and we're reducing these because it's no longer needed in our project income. All right, and if we move into our 2501, we have a slight reduction in 2501 because we had a newer employee take on that role in 2501, so there's a reduction in that account. 94, this is a transfer. We have one more thing here. We had to reduce our pretrial services grant, our 9135, a significant amount because we did not receive that additional funding. We requested additional funding to support the salary of our pretrial coordinator. We did not receive that additional funding, so I have to reduce it because I budgeted for it as requested. By the time we got the notice, we didn't receive it. The budget was already done. So I think I touched on everything. The 8131 is a $1. I just want to make sure that it's the same as what we actually were granted. That's it. Is there any questions? I'm sure there are.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that was sticking in my mind that there's an awful lot of detail here and a lot of balancing. One grant fund and county fund, and to me, spend a career doing this stuff, and it wouldn't be that exciting to me. But I was curious to the amount of I'm going to call it fidelity that you went to show that $1 reduction in that 8131. It struck me, man, somebody's really dotting their I's and crossing their T's on that.
Well, for every one of those you find, there's probably 3 others that aren't so great. So yeah, I appreciate that. I do try to get them in line with what we're able to spend. We try to get these things to line up. This was a rather difficult year, and I'm trying to figure out what I did different this year because I'm not doing that again. It was a lot more work this year than what it had been in the past to make these balance.
Yeah, it looks like the guy juggling a bunch of stuff and running up and down and trying to,
Yes.
I mean, to make these numbers balance out.
In 2 different timelines, and the budgets come in different ways, and it's tough because you ask for this money, so you budget for it, because if we get it, you'll want that on our budget for next year versus us doing the additional on it, so we do reductions. But I'm confident we'll find a better way to do that this year. I say it every year. I mean it this time, though. I'm going to try to find a better way to do this. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Dustin, do you have a specific audit on all of these? I mean, when I saw the dollar, I thought, I know that you have some funds that you have a specific audits for. Are these the funds that?
All of our grant funds, we have financial reports that we have to submit. Our community corrections, we do a fiscal audit every year on that money and our grant money. We do report out on these things, and as Jessica, I know her a lot, as when I go through and I'm starting to go through the entirety of the year of expenditures and trying to make sure that everything's corrected, because I'm going to do 3 probably audits before it goes to anybody else for an audit. Like I'm going to go through these things multiple times because there's so many potential places for errors. I'm constantly calling like, hey, this didn't show up. Where did this go? How did this happen? Can we make some corrections to make sure that that is in fact where it went where it's supposed to be, or spent the way that it's supposed to be spent. So we do have some fiscal auditing, but we do financial reports for our grant funds. It's not like a detailed audit, but it is, we report out, it has to match the auditor and what we reported. Okay? Anything else? Okay.
So it looks like at the end of the day, it's an actual reduction after you sort through all the gobbledygook. It's a reduction to all the budgets in general, the bottom line. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where we landed.
To sum up what you just
To
did.
sum it up, it was a lot of wash to hopefully have it so that it's clean on both sides of the budget and we can
Yeah.
report out as we should.
Yeah. Thank you, Dustin, for all the juggling you do. Appreciate it.
Great.
Next, we have county commissioners. I don't see Mr. Dodd, but I see Commissioner Bray.
Afternoon. Mr. Dodd is under the weather. Commissioner Dodd is, so I'm here representing him. We'll talk about our sidewalk project, and I'm going to have our projects manager, Pam Isaac, who's been ramrodding this thing, tell you all about it.
Good afternoon.
afternoon, Pam.
So Pam would like to say that she ramrodded it, but it was really Greg Lake. So Stormwater did an amazing job. The sidewalks in front of this building, the sidewalks on the north side of the courthouse have been redone. They are very nice looking. We hope we have solved the issue of the water in the sub-basement at the courthouse. That was all waterproofed. That was an area that there was a lot of dampness, a lot of problems down there. That's where the water suppression system comes in for the courthouse, for the fire department. And so we put those projects together, but we couldn't have done it without the council. So thank you for your support in that. And we are asking the additional appropriation of $392,500 to pay those bills now that the project is complete. And I hope you're happy with it. It looks fantastic. So, any questions?
Looks good. The pours pavers look good. Yeah, good job.
And I do especially want to thank Stormwater and Greg Lake. He made this job easy for me. So, thank you, Greg.
Good.
Any questions?
I have one. On
Yes.
the water leak, how long has that been going on that finally
How old's
fixed?
the courthouse? I don't know.
Is that, because I've heard that for the last 20 years, I think, so, at least.
It's a much safer environment for our employees to walk in and out. The sidewalks up there are fixed
Right.
for our visitors, and particularly out here where we had several people fall over the past few years. So it's just, it was a safety concern, and it looks really nice. So, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. And with that, we'll move on to Madam Auditor. Floor is yours.
A lot of mine are just the budget cleanup. And the coroners, they were left off the salary ordinance because he didn't have a chief deputy prior. So the old amount was incorrect. So we had to increase that.
That's Fund 07.
07, and then 09 was the prosecutor that was approved at the end of the year to have an additional prosecutor. That's the 56,425. The Lit Special Purpose Fund, that was the council approving to have 50 correction officers as opposed to the 42. The Emergency Planning Right to Know Fund, it was paid, this one I guess isn't a budget cleanup, but they had paid that amount late, and so it's just kind of carried over every year, and we need a additional $60 to be able to pay that $100 amount to the overtime budget. Local public health, same thing, we just needed to increase that. The Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, that one, I think he came in mid-year, or he didn't start directly at the beginning of the year. So we had the incorrect salary. So when we did the increase on him, it was incorrect. So we had to increase that as well. And the CASA fund, that was approved to increase their case managers, and we just needed to add the additional for that to make our budget correct. Any questions?
Yep, just some cleanup from some of the stragglers that we maybe overlooked or didn't account for at budget time, so. Yep, so I'm okay with that. All right, moving on. Highway Superintendent Amber Toll.
Afternoon. I do have one. It wouldn't be a presentation from the Highway Department without a spreadsheet, right? My favorite. So that one is actually, I'll do the easy one first. The MVH Highway Fund, the additionals for the building. This one is the same exact ask that I came in December to ask for. I asked for the additional appropriations to be able to pay for the salt barn, kind of piggybacking off of Greg's. He put $1 million towards our salt barn construction. I have the remainder of that. I was hoping those bills would come in December, and then I could at least encumber those into my 24 budget, but that didn't happen. So that appropriation didn't actually get spent, so I'm just asking to be able to do that additional this year so I can pay those bills this year, and it should be done by spring when we do the final walkthrough. The other one that I have is a little bit more interesting. So the one for local roads and streets, the 1169 under vehicles, I'm asking for an additional of $500,000 for that fund line, which is pretty aggressive, I understand. And it's actually more aggressive than I planned to be because something has kind of fallen into our laps. So our original appropriation for that fund line for vehicles, and that's where the spreadsheet comes on at the top line there. The original appropriation is $302,000, and I'm asking for an additional $500,000 in that fund line. Now I do have that amount of, I do have that in that fund. I just need to appropriate it into that fund line so that I can spend it appropriately. So that would get a total of $802,000 for my equipment fund line, which I understand is a lot, but there's a reason for that. Over the last couple of years, we have talked about this endlessly. The Highway Department is in desperate need to get rid of some of our old dump trucks and replace them with new dump trucks. And since COVID happened in 2020, the availability of these dump trucks has been few and very far between. We ordered 3 dump trucks in 2021, trying to utilize our ARPA funds, and we literally just last week received the last truck for that. So it took over 4 years for us to go from ordering to receiving those vehicles. So that was a huge lag in trying to replace these vehicles on a like a steady replacement plan that we had budgeted. So that's why we haven't been able to spend our full equipment fund over the last couple of years, because we didn't want to just spend those funds just because we had money in pocket. We didn't want to just spend those frivolously. We wanted to be very purposeful in what we bought, and we needed trucks. So we have kind of bided our time and waited until those trucks are now available, and that time is now. So my plan for 2025 was to purchase 2 dump trucks, 1 single axle and 1 tandem. And so that was going to be pretty aggressive for us. And in the meantime, we've had a 3rd vehicle come available to us, which we weren't really expecting. But I think the time is right, and we do have money in our fund. And so it's time for us to go ahead and spend those funds, or we'd like to spend those funds on equipment that we desperately need. So that's kind of why I'm asking for so much. So my plan is to, if you look at the spreadsheet, my plan is to purchase those 3 vehicles, which are the top 3 vehicles in our little list. And then we also have a GPS tracking system that we are implementing onto our vehicles as well, which is a pretty exciting new option that we have on our vehicles to be able to track those, become more efficient in our truck plowing routes and fuel efficiency, and it's kind of endless, I hope, what that program can bring to us. And then also a few other things that we kind of need on a regular basis to replace some of our plows that are wearing out, a salt box, and then possibly a skid steer by the end of the year. So I didn't want to only buy trucks because we still have other equipment that we need to continue to replace. Otherwise, we're going to kind of get into a position where we're desperate to replace everything at once. So we want to continue to keep that replacement plan in place as well. So that's why I'm asking for that $500,000 in that equipment line. It's pretty aggressive, but kind of the time is right at this point. So you guys have any questions? I know that's a big ask.
So this is basically money that you have available because you did not spend it in the past years.
Correct.
Because you didn't have anything to spend it on.
Correct.
That you really needed.
Yes.
Now it's there.
It wasn't available, and now it's available.
Right.
So, yep.
Did we talk about this at budget time? Because you had unappropriated money and you had, I mean, a sufficient balance to do this. Was this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so I have that money, and we've kind of just held on to it just because we want to make our purchases purposeful and make sense for us for the future.
Perfect.
Thanks for having the financial discipline to wait. And now that you've waited, there's good things here to celebrate. We'll be getting some nice trucks that you need.
Yes.
In your department especially, covering, how many miles do you cover here in Howard County?
I think it's 568 lane miles.
And
So
you need good tools. These are tools. And just thanks for being so disciplined. Appreciate it.
thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, I feel like the highway department's been very frugal over the years. You guys done a good job and given what you had, and it makes sense to me if you have, since you have the cash balance to do this,
Yes.
to act upon it. So.
Yep, absolutely.
Do you have any of the GPS tracking on vehicles now?
We actually just this week have launched that program. So the month of January, we had 5 GPS trackers on kind of strategic vehicles just to test it out. And it was pretty amazing what it gave us. So one of our plow trucks in particular, we've had a couple little baby storms in the month of January. And so one of our plow trucks, we had that GPS tracker on it. And so the driver, great driver, and he ran his route, and we realized that maybe it wasn't quite as efficient as we would like to see. And so we were able to see exactly how he plowed his route through the entire day. And so then for the next storm, we thought, hey, why don't you run the route this direction and maybe make a few changes this way? And he was able to shave almost an hour of time off of his route, which is, time is money, time is safety. The quicker we can get these roads plowed, the safer for the public, and the quicker I can get my guys off the field, which, is just a safety factor for me, too. So it was just amazing to see, like, we could literally track his progress for the entire day. We were able to make a few changes, and we were able to save that much time off of one plow route. So I'm really pretty excited about what we can utilize this for. So
Does the GPS actually control the positioning of the plow truck, or
it just
tell
tells
you
us
where it is?
It just tells us where it is. So
But
it'll
if
just.
you were drifting off because, say it's a blinding snowstorm and you're starting out and you knock out 4 or 5 mailboxes along the way,
Yeah.
the GPS wouldn't necessarily keep you in line like on a center line.
No, it wouldn't do that, but it'll save us, I think, in some of those claims of, you hit my mailbox, because we can pull up, hey, our trucks weren't in that area on that day, or, yeah, we were out there and we probably did hit that mailbox. So we can confirm or deny whether something happened or not. So it will save us in that regard. As far as the safety for our truck drivers, we can set different settings in there. So if our truck sits idle for a period of time, we can set that and we can get an alarm on our phones. We have an app on all of our phones, myself and the 2 foremen. So if something happens, Also, it can detect if there's a wreck or something like that. And we can get that information immediately. So that will help us if somebody is out of, radio range, or if unfortunately something happens and they're not able to call, we'll get an alert that says, hey, this vehicle has been sitting idle for a time, or it's had a wreck. We can immediately address that, that type of thing. So there is a huge safety factor, I think, just to be able to track our guys, because when you think about it, in a blinding storm, we've got, people all over the county, and it's kind of hard to know exactly where people are. Now with the GPS, we will know. So pretty excited. So
Thank you.
once we get kind of up and running and going, I'd like to kind of come in and show you guys what all it can do, because I think it's pretty exciting. It can also do a lot of our diagnostics for any codes that get tripped. So our mechanics can get a heads up on what's going on with our trucks, and it's pretty exciting so far. So
Yeah, super.
yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Anything else?
Thank you, Amber.
All right. Thank you, guys.
With that, I will take any motions on ordinance 2025 HCCO 02.
So, Mr. President, I move that we approve these additional appropriations with the note that, I think it was Dustin that dropped 12004, so scratch that one off, but approve all the others as presented or as listed. I think we covered most of them.
Second.
All right, motion's been properly made and seconded by Councilman Faulkner and Councilman Roberts. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, assign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item of business is transfers. Madam Auditor, would you read the transfer resolution?
Resolution number 2025-HCCR-02, transfers. Whereas the county council may approve the transfer of money from one major budget classification to another within a department or office if the transfer does not require the expenditure of more money than the total amount set out in the budget is finally determined, and if the transfer is approved at a regular public meeting and by the proper ordinance. Be it resolved by the County Council of Howard County that it's desired and deemed necessary that the following transfers be made within the accounts of the designated funds as set out below. County General Fund, Auditor, Second Deputy Finance to First Deputy Finance, $44,172. Second Deputy Finance to Part-Time, $30,000. Auditors ineligible deduction fund, Second Deputy Finance to First Deputy Finance, $902. Adult Probation Case Manager Grant, FICA to PERF, $3,978. FICA to Insurance, $4,793.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll start with Dustin DeLong, if you're still here.
Sure. This was a simple error. The numbers were out of line. 15,220 was my top line, 15,210 was my second, and 15,230 was my third. I had the numbers mixed up when either I mixed them up when I submitted my budget, or they came back to me mixed up. I'm just trying to get that FICA, PERF, and insurance all back in line so that they're accurate. That make sense? Okay.
Makes sense. Thank you. And Madam Auditor.
We moved from having 2 second deputies to 1 second deputy, to a part-time person and a first deputy on the finance side. And in the ineligible homestead fund, 2% of the salaries are paid out of that. So the $902 is to cover the remainder of the salary for those. Any questions? Sorry.
Yeah, I don't have any. So I'll take a motion on transfer resolution number 2025 HCCR 02.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. Motion's been properly made and seconded by Councilwoman Lake and Councilman Roberts. All those in favor, assign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Transfer resolution carries, sorry. And that takes us to our next order of business, which would be the salary ordinance amendment. Jessica, you're up.
Ordinance number 2025-HCCO-03, salary ordinance amendments. An ordinance amending and increasing staffing and salary authorization to be paid county employees for the calendar year effective January 1, 2025 through December 31, 2025, as originally approved for the year 2025 except where otherwise noted. Be it ordained by the Council of Howard County, Indiana, that for the said fiscal year, the following salary amendments are approved as additional changes to the basic salary ordinance for the same fiscal year. Necessary personal services appropriations have been approved previously to support the required expenditure of necessary funds. County General Fund. Second Deputy Finance reduction, $74,172. First Deputy Finance, $44,172. Part-time, $30,000. Coroner Chief Deputy, $3,303. Prosecutor, Deputy Prosecutor, all courts, $56,425. Probation Officer reduction, $565. Probation Officer, $284. Probation Officer, $1,274. Probation Officer reduction, $5,000. PSC Coordinator reduction, $11,226. Assistant Probation Officer, $6,171. Probation Officer, $5,858. Probation Officer reduction, $1,880. Lit Special Purpose Fund, Jail Correction Officers, $373,000. Community Corrections Fund, Probation Officer reduction, $285. Probation Officer reduction, $1,275. Probation Officer, $79. Work Release Facility Manager, reduction, $325. Full-Time Detention Officer, $13,186. Administrative Assistant, reduction, $1,181. Probation Officer reduction, $17. Field Officer reduction, $4,000. Emergency Planning Right to Know Fund, overtime, $60. Local Public Health Services Fund, Vital Records Clerk, $1,851. Motor Vehicle Highway Fund, Engineers Aid, $1,440. CASA Fund, Case Manager, $4,164. Auditors and Eligible Deduction Fund, Second Deputy Finance reduction, $902. First Deputy Finance, $902. Supplemental Adult Probation Fund, Administrative Assistant reduction, $10,135. Administrative Assistant reduction, $10,135. Juvenile Probation Secretary, reduction, $11,031. County User Fee Alcohol and Drug Fund, Assistant Chief Probation Officer reduction, $6,678. County User Fee Project Income Fund, Probation Officer reduction, $5,842. Probation Officer reduction, $79. Work Release Facility Manager, $325. Probation Officer reduction, $733. Full-Time Detention Officer, $24,000. Part-Time Detention Officer, $4,050. Detention Officer Supervisor, $17,808. Administrative Assistant reduction, $886. Overtime, $25,000. Probation Officer, $17. Field Officer, $4,000. On-Call Field Officer, $15,600. Pretrial Coordinator, $48,750. FICA, $10,000. Perf reduction, $40,000. Insurance, $35,926. Probation VOCA Grant Fund Victim Assistant, reduction, $1. Pretrial Service Grant Fund, Probation Officer, reduction, $63,445. FICA reduction, $5,017. Perf, $9,639. Did I say reduction? Sorry, reduction, $9,639. Insurance reduction, $30,710. Adult Probation Case Manager Grant. FICA reduction, $8,771. Perf, $3,978. Insurance, $4,793. Veterans PSC Grant. Probation Officer, $57,465. FICA, $4,356. Perf, $8,370. Insurance, $12,274.
Nicely done. With that, I will take a motion on ordinance number 2025 HCCO-03.
Mr. President, brought to my attention that one of these lines, 12004, the probation officer, $5,858, should also be struck from the record.
Perfect. I'm glad you caught that.
Well, I didn't, but, so with that, I would like to make a motion that we accept as presented minus that line item.
Motion's been made by Councilman Sanders. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been properly made by Councilman Sanders and seconded by Councilman Faulkner. All those in favor, assign aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Salary ordinance passes. Do we have any old business tonight? Hearing none, I'll move on. Do we have any new business? Hearing none, move on to other council business. Does anybody have anything?
Yes, I do. Next Tuesday and Wednesday, they have the Indiana County Council Association meeting in Indianapolis, and I've applied to go, and I've volunteered to be Martha Lake's chauffeur. So when you go with Martha, it's always everybody knows Martha there, and so it's a good thing to be with her.
And it's good now because people are learning Frank as well, because he's becoming quite knowledgeable. So, and it's a legislative conference. Can I continue with what you
Sure.
started, or are you finished?
Yeah.
There's really scary legislation on council, for council changes when it comes to money for locals. The Senate Bill 1, House Bill 1402, if you get a chance to read those, I mean, it's totally changing everything as far as our funding is concerned. So we need to work together, and we may need some of you to call our legislators. I think, I know I've talked to Mike Karakoff. I don't believe that he's in favor of changing everything, but if they change it, we're going to lose not just millions, but billions across the state. So, anyway, that's one reason we need to be there, among other things, because there's just a lot going on in the state, changes.
Yeah, I would echo those comments. That conference is a great one. I thank you too for attending. And Martha, I want to spotlight you a little bit. I appreciate you being on the AIC County Council Association Ledge Committee. I'm on it, but you are there faithfully every week, being a part. And so thank you for
be
being
there because I'm home. Okay.
So thank you for being up to speed on all that, because it is very important that we know what's going on down at the state level. So.
And it's important that we go to these meetings, and important that we share with each other, because not everybody can do everything, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, our next regularly scheduled meeting is February 25th at 4 p.m. here. I will take motions for adjournment after this.
May I please say?
Yes.
I don't know if anybody else wants to say thank you to John, but John has worked hard for the last 2 years, and we've appreciated his leadership and his dedication to details, and his ability to keep in contact with each one of us. And you've done a fantastic job, John. Thank you.
Martha, you're a good councilwoman, and
I wasn't.
and you know, to be the council president, it's different than being not the president. You kind of grow into it, and I'm really happy that Daryl is our new president. He has the aptitude and the intelligence to do a wonderful job, and he's got a strong team to support him. So to you, Mr. President, and to you, Councilwoman Lake, thank you.
And thank you, and thank you. to
And
all.
I just agree with what both Frank and Martha said, John. I think you did a very good job.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, John. We look forward to working with all of you because we got a lot of challenges coming up, and it's not one of us, it's all 7 of us together. So, so, all right, with that, any motions
For adjournment,
for adjournment? I'm sorry.
make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All right. Properly made and seconded by Councilman Roberts and Councilwoman Lake. Meeting is adjourned.